Well, I don't know who Charles is introducing, but I'm voting for that guy. No, I'm kidding. It's so good to see you all, especially with such great weather. You know, one of the things about running for office is that you sort of stop paying attention to a lot of the other things going on around you. And it's nice to just get outside. When I go home late at night, once in a while, my wife and I will just go for a walk, just to do nothing but walk and enjoy an evening. We don't get too many of those, but in 33 days, we'll get a few more of them. 33 days in about 5 hours, but who's counting? Who's counting? We got a little ways to go, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about our race and Bill and Bob's. You've got a great delegate here. You've had a string of them. I appreciate both Charles and Alan's support, and Sheriff as well. You're around the corner there from me. Appreciate the Sheriff's support. You know, when we got that Fraternal Order of Police endorsement, I guess it was last week, my opponent responded by rolling out the 23 elected sheriffs and Commonwealth's attorneys that had endorsed him. Well, the following Monday, we rolled out 77 of them. We have almost as many independent sheriffs and Commonwealth's attorneys as supporting us as my opponent has in total. So law enforcement is with us in this race, and that's a big deal to the voters of Virginia. And for the first time in my memory, in almost 20 years of being an active Republican, for the first time, economic issues are up there right with criminal justice issues in the Attorney General's race, because people are very concerned. They're very concerned with not just the short-term opportunity they've got, but they're concerned in the middle term in a few years, and what are their children going to have as we watch an incredible, incredible debt get rung up with speed that we've never seen before, ever seen before. And it's legitimate to wonder, can we sustain this? Are we mortgaging our children's future? You know, this morning, two things happened today in our campaign. The first is we rolled out a veterans program, and we did that in a telephone conference call with Joe McCain, not John, but Joe McCain. Joe McCain lives in Alexandria, brother of John, and he's a riot to listen to. Paul Galante, who I hope you all remember from last year's campaign. He's a Virginian, was a prisoner of war in Vietnam, great American, and Roger Sullivan, much less known, but an ardent fighter for veterans within the VA system. Well, we rolled out some proposals there today, and we also today received the endorsement of the NRA, one of the big ones. So we're very proud of that fact. And now, that's something that seems like a no-brainer down here in Franklin County, but let me tell you, in my district, in Western Fairfax County, it polls 4-to-1 for gun control. And I don't mean hitting the target, I mean legislation. And I'm the leader in the state Senate defending the Second Amendment. And that's why the NRA has given me an A+ rating in their endorsement this year, is we've been a stalwart in that. And I will tell you that this campaign, like every other I've ever run, starts with certain foundational positions and principles. First, protecting the Constitution as it was written. What a concept, huh? I think the Founding Fathers got it right, and I think it's our duty, generation after generation, to defend that. If you don't like something in the Constitution, there's a way to change it. It's called an amendment. It isn't 5 judges on the Supreme Court. That's not the right way to change the Constitution. And that's where this campaign starts. And that's particularly important for someone who wants to be Attorney General. And there's also defending life. I've been an advocate of that in the Senate, a leader in a district, again, that is not all that friendly to that position. And defending families. The Attorney General's office is the only position anymore that really matters for the marriage amendment. We got it, we won it, we fought for it. I was out campaigning for it in Northern Virginia. Not the politically correct thing to do, but we won. We didn't win Fairfax, but we won Virginia. And now the only thing left to do is defend it when the inevitable case comes challenging the constitutionality under the federal Constitution of our marriage amendment, or trying to force us to accept what some other state calls a marriage that we don't recognize here in Virginia, and that is a marriage between one man and one woman. And I will defend that. On all of these issues, my opponent is in a different place. Second Amendment. Charles mentioned property rights. I'm one of the leaders in the General Assembly in defending property rights. Now, mind you, this doesn't fall under my earlier comment about protecting the Constitution, because with that Kelo decision in 2005 that Charles mentioned, the federal Supreme Court essentially wiped out property rights protection in the federal Constitution. You don't have it anymore. And you may not know it, but you don't have property rights protection in the Virginia Constitution. So right now, as we all stand here, none of us has our property rights protected in either the state or federal Constitution. Well, I aim to change that as Attorney General. We will push for a constitutional amendment to the Virginia Constitution to do that. And again, this is an issue my opponent has been on the other side of. And I'll tell you, if you want one issue where you can divide the politicians who side with the special interests and then just go talk nice to their constituents while taking all that special interest money, and those that side with individual rights, it's property rights. You'll find it every time. You'll find it every time. And I'm going to jump races on you for a minute to the governor's race. The resolution to amend our Constitution to protect property rights got out of the House, thanks to Charles and others, and it came over to the Senate, to our Privileges and Elections Committee, where it died on an 8-7 vote. And Creed Eads voted no. He voted no. Creed Eads kept property rights from moving to the floor of the Senate personally. So keep that in mind when you're talking to folks about that race. Keep that in mind. This year we're also talking about an amendment we haven't heard much about since 8th grade civics class, the 10th Amendment. This is the one that allows states to protect their own sovereignty under the Constitution. What a concept. Some people have forgotten that the federal government is the creation of the states and not the other way around. Well, if I get elected Attorney General, the federal government's going to be reminded of that rather vigorously. And the most likely area where we're going to see conflict under the 10th Amendment is our right to work laws. You know, I'm running against a guy who has a 100% voting record with the AFL-CIO. I haven't done as well. I have a 0. But my view of that scorecard is it's really more like golf than football. You want a lower score, not a higher one. So we're doing okay in that respect. And in the last finance report for my opponent, he had 11 donors of $10,000 or more. 7 of them were unions, including the New York, New Jersey SEIU. If you've been reading about ACORN, you know about SEIU. Well, they're on board with my opponent, big time, to the tens of thousands of dollars. All of them together are in the 6 figures of donations to my opponent. And it keeps coming. His biggest donor is the Democrat Attorney General's Association, and they get about half their money from unions. So he's got more of it that way. And he's also getting it from trial lawyers, not reputable ones like Bill and I, but you know, Consumer Litigation Associates. What do you think they do, business owners? They're out there, they put $400,000 into various races in Virginia, and $50,000 of it went to my opponent. And they have one thing in mind, and it isn't making your business more successful, I promise you that. And those are the folks on board with my opponent. You even have Philadelphia and New York trial firms on board with my opponent to the tune of like $25,000 each. You know, that's a big, big difference. It makes a big difference for our economy, and it will make a big difference if the unions get their way. And what they want to do is push it down from Washington. And then you're going to hear my opponent and Creed Eads stand aside and say, oh, there's nothing we can do. Oh, woe is us. Well, guess what, folks? There is something you can do. There is something an Attorney General can do, and I may look Italian, but I'm half Irish, and I don't mind fighting if the cause is right. And they're giving us cause. They look like they're on course to do that in Washington. And I am prepared to have those fights. And Charles will tell you, Alan will tell you, in the last 7 years, I'm in my 3rd term in the state Senate, when I've thought Republicans were wrong, I went toe-to-toe with them. I don't back off even my allies when they're wrong.